Hi there, I want to share my sermon for the day. This isn't one that I've preached today at Clayton because I've had a Sunday off. I've been up at Surrender Conference, but this is a sermon just on the Gospel reading that I preached in Noble Park on Friday. The Gospel reading is from John 11, 1 to 45. So feel free to pause the video, have a read of it, and then start the video up again. Western culture has often thought of God as distant, and often that understanding of God has been adopted by the church. We've often imagined that God is not moved by human beings. Philosophers have said God is the unmoved mover, that God moves us, but we don't move God. And in the story that we've looked at today from John's Gospel, it starts off seeming like Jesus is unmoved by his dear friend's illness, because the illness is all part of the divine plan. It's going to show God's goodness. Even when Lazarus has died, it doesn't seem like that's real to Jesus in this story. He talks as though Lazarus is just asleep. Even when he tells the disciples plainly that Lazarus has died, it doesn't seem like Jesus is affected. He's saying, I'm glad I wasn't there because this will make you believe. It seems like Jesus is not being present to the death of his dear friend. But this is also a very human thing, isn't it? We might feel numb or blank when someone has died. We might find that we can't say how we feel. We can't figure out how we feel. We might find reasons not to be present close to the time of death because we feel like it's not good to be around death. We might find it hard to get in touch with our feelings. We might jump to theological explanations in order to avoid the feelings of loss and grief. In the story, the Jewish community in Bethany is present to the grief of Mary and Martha, whose brother has died. They've been with them through it all, and they're grieving together. And when Jesus reaches them, he's finally moved by the reality of what has happened and is able to enter the grief with them. I've experienced this, finding it hard to feel anything when somebody has died until I get to the funeral and I see my family or I see my community, and suddenly I start crying. Jesus is moved by the experience of grief and loss before he brings Lazarus back from death. And now Lazarus's empty tomb remains open, ready to hold a body again. Soon Jesus will take Lazarus's place because Jesus has not just stayed distant to us. In Jesus, God has joined us in the human experience and joined us in our grief and our joy, even dying like we do. And we're called to demonstrate the same thing as well, to not be distant to our neighbours, but to join them in their grief and in their joy. Sometimes we'll find that it's hard, that there's something that's blocking us. But we can keep trying and learning, and we can learn how to be present even when it's difficult, even when there's something trying to block us from being present to our neighbour.